A three-judge bench of the Supreme Court has pronounced the interim order in the anti-Waqf pleas hearing. At the outset, there has been no stay on the Waqf Amendment Act. Additionally, the court has directed that there will be no changes to the existing and registered Waqf properties and no new appointments to the Waqf boards. The court has given the centre 7 days' time to file a reply. The court has also directed both sides to appoint nodal counsels. That's not all. The apex court has specified that only 5 writ petitioners will be in court from the next hearing. Meanwhile, the centre has clarified that registered Waqf by users will not be denotified and status quo will be maintained till the next hearing, which will take place on the 5th of May. Sabiha Ahmed, spokesperson AIMPLB, is joining us live on the broadcast. Nikhil Jain, political analyst, is live with us. Bhaskar Ghosh, BJP spokesperson, joins us live. Naveen Chomal, Supreme Court lawyer, is live with us. Sufi Mohammed Kausar Hassan Majidi, National President, Sufi Kanka Association, also is joining the broadcast live. Let me make a start with you first, Naveen Chomal. How do you view the Supreme Court hearing today and how it panned out?
Clear words, without mincing any words, the order is absolutely unconstitutional. The Supreme Court does not have power to now sit over the legislation done by the legislators. They are totally, crossing the line. And even our Honorable President was required to comment on the Supreme Court. And we see the Supreme Court is day in, day out, crossing the line in various aspects and passing absolutely illegal and unconstitutional orders also. So I will not digress from today's topic and cover the other orders which were controversial orders which were passed a couple of days earlier. But I'll confine myself to this thing that even today, the conduct of the central government was still showing respect to the honorable judiciary, and they said that, okay, we will maintain the status quo. But the question that arises is whether the Supreme Court has the power to issue a mandamus or any injunction on the government irrespective of the bill which is passed by the parliament. That is the prime question, and we will find all the legal...
At the end of the day, you believe that judicial overreach is happening. However, I would remind you, so far the Supreme Court has not passed any order, nor have they stayed the Waqf legislation. So perhaps your observations are a bit preliminary. Also, Mr. Chomal, I will caution you in making certain statements on the judiciary. Obviously, calling orders illegal or unconstitutional cannot apply because it's the judiciary that makes the laws at the end of the day. But yes, your moot point, fair enough, is that judicial overreach is happening. Sabiha Ahmed, quickly drawing you in here. Sabiha Ahmed, as far as, of course, no stay granted today, what do you make of that big order by the Supreme Court? Is it a win for the side of who have enacted the Waqf legislation?
Is that to me?
Sabiha, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you please repeat the question? Sorry, I just overheard.
Okay, I think we're having some, yes, I think your frame also, we're having trouble with it. I'll come to you. Let me draw in at this point Sufi Mohammed Kausar Hassan Majidi. Sufi Mohammed Kausar Hassan Majidi, your first reaction to how the Waqf appeals have panned out. Yesterday, of course, the hearing happened. Today, too, an order dictated for the time being, an interim order. Do you welcome it, or were you expecting more?
देखिए, तो हमारी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। सबसे पहले तो मैं आपका धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं। देखिए, ये तो हमारी बहुत पुरानी मांग थी और आज भी है कि वक्फ के कानूनों में संशोधन किया जाए, लेकिन जिस प्रकार से ये चीजें लाई गई, कहीं ना कहीं इसमें पहले से खतरे की घंटी जो है वो दिखाई दे रही थी। जिस तरीके से आधा अधूरा इसको लाया गया कि जो एक बड़ा पुराना कानून है कि इसमें वक्फ में वही लोग शामिल हो सकते हैं जिनकी 1 लाख से अधिक आमदनी वाले वक्फ हों, तो ये दोहरा मापदंड है। दूसरी बात, जिस तरीके से वक्फ बाय यूजर को लेकर के ये मामला हो रहा है, ये तो बड़ा चिंता का विषय है। चिंता का विषय इसलिए है कि मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देना चाहता हूँ, छोटा सा एग्जांपल मैं अपने स्वयं के गांव का, कि मेरे गांव में मेरा अपना निजी कब्रिस्तान है जो कि रेवेन्यू रिकॉर्ड में दर्ज है। उस पर तमाम कब्रें और मतलब मज़ारें हमारे बुजुर्गों की बनी हुई हैं। उन कब्रों और मज़ारों की बुनियाद पर वक्फ बोर्ड ने बाय यूजर कह करके उसको अपने में शामिल कर लिया। अब हम इसकी कंप्लेन लेकर के जाएंगे वक्फ बोर्ड के पास, तो वह बोर्ड सुनवाई करेगा, उसके बाद अगर हमारे पक्ष में आर्डर नहीं आता तो हम ट्रिब्यूनल में जाएंगे। तो इस तरीके से मतलब हमको अपनी जमीन को बचाने के लिए कितना संघर्ष करना पड़ता था। अब उस पर अगर कोई चीज आई है तो उस पर विरोधाभासी चीजें हो रही हैं। तो कहीं ना कहीं चूंकि मामला सुप्रीम कोर्ट से जुड़ा हुआ है, इस विषय में किसी भी प्रकार की कोई टिप्पणी किया जाना भी उचित नहीं हो सकता है, क्योंकि ये हमारे देश का सर्वोच्च संवैधानिक आईनी अदारा है। अब इसका जो भी निर्णय होगा वो सभी को कबूल करना चाहिए। इससे पहले भी इस देश के मुसलमानों ने सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जो भी निर्णय हुए थे वो बखुशी कबूल किए थे। अब इस मामले में जो भी निर्णय होगा उसको कबूल करेंगे।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। और अब मैं आपसे ये भी पूछूंगा कि जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है कि सिर्फ 5 रिट पिटिशंस होने चाहिए, सिर्फ 5 पिटिशनर्स होने चाहिए जो मुख्य हैं, क्योंकि हम देख रहे थे कि बहुत से लोग जो हैं पिटिशन फाइल कर रहे थे। कुछ लोग शायद पब्लिसिटी के लिए, कुछ लोग पॉलिटिकल रीजंस के लिए। तो क्या आपको लगता है ये भी एक अच्छा फैसला है कि सिर्फ 5 अब पिटिशंस होंगे मेंटेनेबल कोर्ट के सामने, ताकि वही 5 वकील आर्ग्यू करे, ताकि कोर्ट रूम भी ना भरे और जुडिशरी भी बैकलॉग ना हो ज्यादा?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, ये तो निर्णय स्वागत योग्य है, क्योंकि ये तो जाहिर सी बात है कि एक पब्लिसिटी से स्टंट होता है, जिसको समझ में आए वो दाखिल कर दे जा करके। बात तो वही होगी ना, चाहे उसको 25 लोग करें या 5 लोग करें या 5,000 लोग करें। तो अगर उन्होंने उसको 5 से अधिक का कोई फाउंडेशन लगाई है तो ये निर्णय स्वागत योग्य है, और इसमें किसी भी प्रकार का किसी को शक नहीं करना चाहिए देश की सबसे बड़ी संवैधानिक संस्था के ऊपर।
जी बिल्कुल। Bhaskar Ghosh, let me bring you in here. Bhaskar Ghosh of the BJP, how do you view the Supreme Court hearing today, and what do you make of the order that came? At the end of the day, of course, status quo will be maintained. The Supreme Court also taking on record the assurance given by the Solicitor General of India, but of course not a complete stay, as the petitioners wanted. Bhaskar, can you hear me? Okay, I think we're having trouble with his connection as well, unfortunately. Let me bring in Nikhil Jain at this point. Nikhil, much awaited, of course, interim order today in this high-profile case on the Waqf Amendment Act. What do you make of how the Supreme Court ruled, and was it a win for the appellants? Was it a win for the government, or do you believe it's too early to say?
Government or the petitioners, but what I would say is that so far as it seems, the court does not seem to agree with the kind of amendments that the centre has brought in. Also, at this juncture, I would like to make it very clear to our viewers as a lawyer that it is perfectly all right to criticize a judgment of the Supreme Court, call it arbitrary, illegal, unconstitutional, so long as you are not imputing any malice on the court or the judges. It's a constitutional right. That being said, it's a little sad for me that Mr. Chomal, who I believe is an advocate himself, and the Vice President of India, who also happened to be a senior advocate before he ventured into active politics, they are talking about things which are completely against the constitutional scheme. The Constitution of India very clearly provides for the constitutional courts of the country.
Okay, now that is a separate debate. I don't want to get into that. That is a separate debate. Yes, you have given your point against what Naveen Chomal has said. Fair enough. Now let's come back to the issue at hand.
Yes, absolutely. That is what I'm talking about. That judicial overview under the writ jurisdiction is something that is explicitly provided for in the Constitution, which includes the power of the Supreme Court to nullify, cancel, stay, legislative orders, government orders, including legislation passed by the Parliament and the State Assemblies. And time and again, they've done that. Sections of different laws have been struck down or modified by the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court, in its wisdom, felt that it does not align with the scheme of the Constitution. It's ultra-wise. That's perfectly all right. And what is happening in the Waqf Act, as pretty much most of the opposition in the country, all of the opposition in the country, more than 230 members of parliament in the Lok Sabha voted against this bill, and their objection was precisely that a lot of the provisions being brought in this Waqf amendment are unconstitutional, illegal, and that is also what the Supreme Court is saying. So for the Vice President of India to sort of create this constitutional crisis and say that the Supreme Court is acting against the principles of democracy or they are overstepping their line, and how can they go around looking into legislation? I think
that's a separate issue. That is on the judgment on the President of India and the governors, and of course on the issue of Justice Verma's case. the Vice President has weighed in. He's not spoken on the Waqf Amendment Act. So let's come back to the issue at hand. You've made your point. However, what you haven't spoken at all on today's hearing or today's order.
No, I will speak about today's hearing and today's order. The points that have specifically been raised in terms of how properties have to be specifically registered and within 6 months, if they are not, they have to be de-notified as Waqf properties. The Supreme Court has made it clear that nothing is going to change on that, and I'm sure an order would be passed.
Naveen Chomal, your response. Naveen Chomal, your response. Nikhil Jain has clearly rebutted only your points, so you can go ahead.
See, first of all, I'm thankful to Nikhil ji for clarifying to our esteemed viewers also that criticism of Supreme Court, like the words are illegal or unconstitutional, are not unparliamentary. That is a legal point of it. Now, there may be difference of view between Nikhil ji and myself, but please appreciate what the basic fundamental principle is. There is separation of power, and whatever act is passed by the parliament, its constitutionality is presumed, unless, of course, Supreme Court finds it to be drastically wrong, which is what you said, infringing with our constitution. So now, in this case, when the Supreme Court could not even come to conclusion that what is the unconstitutional in the Amendment Act of 2025. So before that,
no, they haven't given their final order though. They haven't given their final order. It's just an interim order. They have not given their final order. It's just an interim order. It's just an interim order. It's not a final order.
Democracy. Over to you, sir.
Mr. Chomal, I said it's not a final order. It's just an interim order.
So that's why the Supreme Court does not have power to have an interim order. Supposing Supreme Court passes interim order and keeps it hearing pending for 2 years. So that means they have stayed the order for 2 years, the bill for 2 years. So of course they have not done it. They have kept it next week only. But still, the Supreme Court does not have power. This is unprecedented. In which other acts have Supreme Court done it in the past? So definitely the particular decision of Supreme Court, the order that is passed today, is
no, that's perhaps incorrect, Mr. Chomal, because acts passed by the Parliament have been challenged in the Supreme Court.
Definitely,
this has not happened for the first time.
No. The challenge is always a healthy thing. There has to be discussion, and Supreme Court can always decide. But the presumption is of the constitutionality of the act, unless somebody proves that it is unconstitutional, and Supreme Court is satisfied that it is ultra
yes,
virus.
which is why they've not put a final stay on it. Again, I'm adding, they've not put a stay on it. So your point, of course, that they've kept in abeyance actually does not fall true, because as I said, they've not put a stay on it. And they've given a rather short date of the 5th of May, because obviously the SG wanted 7 days time, and there needs to be time for the reply also to be filed by the prosecution. So they've given quite a short date as well, let me add, of the 5th of May. But let me also at this point go back across to Sufi Mohammed Kausar Hassan Majidi. Sufi Mohammed Kausar Hassan Majidi, वक्फ अमेंडमेंट एक्ट को लेकर आपकी क्या राय है? क्या आपको लगता है ये अच्छी पहल है, अच्छा कदम है जो सरकार ने अपनाया है? क्या आप इस एक्ट का समर्थन करते हैं, या फिर आपको उच्च न्यायालय से उम्मीदें हैं कि इस एक्ट को स्टे कर दिया जाएगा? आपकी क्या राय है?
ये तो एक सकारात्मक पहल है केंद्र सरकार की ओर से वक्फ के संशोधन के लिए, लेकिन जिस प्रकार से इसमें राजनीति हो रही है, मैं बिल्कुल स्पष्ट बात करना चाहता हूं, जिस प्रकार से इसमें राजनीति हो रही है और कुछ ऐसे प्रावधानों को लागू किया गया जिससे राजनीतिक माइलेज लिया जाए, तो इससे मुसलमानों का भला नहीं होगा। देखिए, सबसे पहली बात, जो बुनियादी बात है, मैंने आपको बताई कि अंग्रेजों के जमाने का आज भी वक्फ बोर्ड में कानून है कि जिसके पास 1 लाख रुपए से अधिक वक्फ की आमदनी का वक्फ होगा, वही वक्फ बोर्ड के चुनाव में वोट दे सकता है। ये तो दोहरा मापदंड है। इसका मतलब अगर किसी के वक्फ की आमदनी कम है तो वो वोट नहीं दे सकता है। वोटर तो सबको समान होना चाहिए, मत देने का सबको समान अधिकार होना चाहिए। इसके अलावा बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें हैं, जैसे वक्फ बाय यूजर के नाम पर किसी भी निजी संपत्ति को वक्फ बोर्ड के द्वारा उसमें अगर आसार नजर आ जाए, मजहबी आसार जैसे कि मस्जिद है या इमाम बारगाह है जो निजी लोगों ने बनाई, उसको भी वक्फ बोर्ड के जरिए छीन लिया गया। और बहुत सी ऐसी चीजें आई कि जिसके तमाम एग्जाम्पल है कि लोगों ने एक जो है बैक डेट में एक हिबानामा, वो वक्फ डीड बनाई और ले जाकर के वो वक्फ बोर्ड में दाखिल कर दी, और साहब वो जो है वो निजी प्रॉपर्टी, वो वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी हो गई। और उनमें से एक जो सबसे ज्यादा दबंग परिवार का सदस्य था वो मुतवल्ली होकर के चला आया, उसने उस पर कब्जा करके औने पौने दामों पर बेच दिया। ये समस्या है, पूरे भारत में समस्या है, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं। वक्फ प्रॉपर्टी से संबंधित समस्या है। देखिए, बिहार शरीफ जिला नालंदा की सुगरा वक्फ स्टेट की प्रॉपर्टी, जो अरबों खरबों रुपए की प्रॉपर्टी थी, जिसको जो है वक्फ माफियाओं ने औने पौने दामों में बेच डाला, जिससे लाखों, बिहार जैसा देश जहां पर सबसे ज्यादा गरीब पिछड़े मुसलमान हैं, उनका कितना भला हो सकता था। उसी प्रकार से हर जगह पर इस तरीके के घोटाले हैं। आप ग्राउंड पर जाकर देखिए। देखिए, वक्फ एक्ट जो आया, इसमें मैं कुछ मठाधीशों की बात तो नहीं करता, लेकिन आम आदमी इससे बड़ा खुश था। लेकिन अगर इसमें बहुत सी चीजें इसमें जोड़ दी जाती, जैसे सूफियों की दरगाहों को संरक्षित करने के लिए इसमें प्रावधान किए जाते और ये आमदनी वाला मसला हटा दिया जाता, तो इसको एक बहुत अच्छा रूप दिया जा सकता था।
जी, निखिल जैन भी आपकी बात पे जवाब देना चाहते हैं। जी निखिल।
To actually respond to an earlier point, which was that the Supreme Court has never stayed any acts of the Parliament. They have. There's precedents in the past. 2021 farm laws was stayed without the case being finally decided. Similarly, in 2014, before the Modi era, you had the Supreme Court stay Section 62(5) of the Punjab Act, and these are just two examples. I'm sure there are more. So far as
Naveen
the
Chomal's
board,
points are,
Naveen
Chomal's points are incorrect, is what you're saying.
Is concerned, there is a legal recourse to it. You can go to the Waqf Tribunal. If you do not like the decision of the Waqf Tribunal, you can go to the High Court and then to the Supreme Court. That is pretty much how it is always. If the collector in my revenue village or revenue district, feels that a particular property that I'm occupying is a property of the government, the collector can issue similar notices and the collector can similarly take possession, but I can again go and challenge it. That is the legal scheme of things. And again, just to clarify on your show, something that I've clarified multiple times before, that to the Waqf board, first of all, it's not a single institution. There are about 30 Waqf boards in the country, one for each state. Each Waqf board is an institution of the state government. So when we talk about Waqf board usurping properties of Muslims or Hindus or anybody, what we are essentially saying is that the
Let's
state
get in
government
Bhaskar
is
Ghosh
doing
now
it.
of the BJP. I believe he's back with us. Bhaskar Ghosh of the BJP. You've heard some of the other people out. We had lost your connection earlier. What is your view, of course, on the Supreme Court order today and your response to the panelists' points?
I'm sorry? Uday, your voice is breaking. Is that to me?
Bhaskar Ghosh of the BJP.
Yeah, Uday, now I'm back online.
Go ahead.
Muted from your end. So what I want to say that I have just listening to all my co-panelists. First of all, this particular amendments have been done by an extensive research analysis and meeting by the JPC and the ministry, and then a different stakeholder in the societies, and then after it was presented to the parliament, and where it has the longest discussion in the last 10 years. The longest discussion it was inducted. Now the question is that the basic fundamentals of this amendment is Sachar Committee. And the Sachar Committee was formed by the UP in 2005, and it was chaired by a Justice Rajendra Sachar, the former Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court. So I am really being a layman and asking whether such a committee reports was tabled by the ex-Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, why today people are making a hue and cry on the constitutional crisis? Because that we have to understand that if such a committee report, we have to implement it. That is, our government has committed for that, and today we are implementing it. Why other people are talking about it is unconstitutional, it will favor us, and blah 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 blah. You have to understand that basically the amendments has been inducted for assuring the transparency and efficiency of managing such a huge property of 8,70,000 hectares. $12 billion properties are there. So, and it has been grabbed by only 200 people. There could be 30, my other panel is telling you 30 boards. It's not important 30 boards, it's 200 odd people was controlling. And at the same time, we are, in this bill.
Okay, in fact, we're getting some breaking news coming in now on the broadcast amidst the ongoing hearing over the Waqf Amendment Act. A delegation of the Dawoodi Bohra community has met with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to thank him for the Waqf Amendment Act. They have said that it was a long pending demand of the community. They've also reposed faith in Prime Minister's vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. You can see here this meeting of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with members of the Dawoodi Bohra community. They have reached there to thank PM Modi for enacting the Waqf Act legislation. Sanjay Sharma is joining us for more on this story. Sanjay, big news coming in. It seems that the Dawoodi Bohra community is very happy with the Waqf Amendment Act.
देखिए, वक्फ बिल जब से लेकर के आया गया है, जो दाऊदी बोहरा समाज है, जो अभी तक वक्फ बोर्ड के खिलाफ था, उसने इस बिल को पूरी तरह से सपोर्ट किया था। हमने देखा था जब जेपीसी का गठन किया गया था वक्फ बिल पर, तब जेपीसी के सामने भी दाऊदी बोहरा समाज आया था और उन्होंने अपनी तरफ से वकील हरीश साल्वे को पेश किया था और हरीश साल्वे ने जेपीसी के सामने दलीलें दी थी कि वक्फ बिल एकदम सही है और मुस्लिम समाज के हित में है। इसमें गरीब मुसलमानों का फायदा है, महिलाओं का फायदा है और बच्चों का फायदा है। तो ये बातें दाऊदी बोहरा समाज की तरफ से कही गई थी और आज जब वक्फ बिल पास हो गया, जब कानून बन चुका है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट में भले ही कुछ लोग उसके खिलाफ गए, सुनवाई भी चल रही है वहां पर, लेकिन दाऊदी बोहरा समाज के प्रतिनिधि आज प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी से मिलने गए, उनके घर पर गए, उनको मिलकर के उनको धन्यवाद कहा और कहा कि दाऊदी बोहरा समाज चाहता था कि वक्फ बोर्ड में सुधार हो और वक्फ बोर्ड की संपत्तियां इस पर जो जिस तरीके से लूट का खेल अभी तक चलता रहा है वो बंद हो और इसमें महिलाओं को, गरीब मुसलमानों को, पसमानदाओं को, बोहरा समाज को, जिनकी अभी तक इसमें उपेक्षा की जाती थी, तो इनको इनका हक मिले। तो आज ये बड़ा डेवलपमेंट है कि वक्फ बिल के समर्थन में मुस्लिम समाज का एक बड़ा तबका खुल करके सामने आया।
जी बिल्कुल, और प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी को शुक्रिया भी किया और उनके श्रेय भी दिया इस बड़ी कदम और बड़े पहलू के लिए। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया संजय हमारे संग जुड़ने के लिए। मैं हमारे तमाम और मेहमानों का भी शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं। वक्त अब हो चुका है एक छोटे से ब्रेक का। ब्रेक के लिए हम रुकते हैं। ब्रेक के बाद कहीं मत जाइएगा, न्यूज़ एक्स पर बने रहिए।